Welcome back, everybody, to the Sunday No, I think we need to change the name. I don't know. Sunday Sermons is kind of lame to me, now that I think about it.
What should we call it?
I don't know. That's a good question. I should have thought about this beforehand. It literally, as it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, yeah, this is kind of stupid. But, I don't know, for now, we'll call it the Tim and Andy Show. How about that?
That works.
I'm a fucking creative genius. All right, welcome everybody to the first episode of the Tim and Andy Show here on retrovolve.com. I am your host, Andy Ryerson, and of course, as the new title of the show would imply, with me is Tim Evans.
I got top billing. Hi.
God damn it. Should have put more thought in that. Fuck. Too late now. I think Tim and Andy has a better ring to it than Andy and Tim. It just rolls off.
I think so too.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue better. I'm cool with that. I can play second fiddle. That's all right. Anyways, we are here this week to talk about our top 10 most scariest, spookiest, and creepiest games ever made. There really isn't going to be a good way of ranking these, so we're just going to kind of discuss, I don't know, what we like about the game, why we thought they were creepy or scary or whatever, and yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Obviously, in the spirit of Halloween, we kind of decided that this would be a very fitting topic for this week. But first, before we get to that, I just kind of wanted to talk about a few things that we have right now on retrovolve.com. Of course, we are more than just a YouTube channel. This is actually a very small part of what we do at Retrovolve. Most of our content is traditional written content, and we have a lot of good written pieces. I think today's was yours, Tim, about the Beavis and Butthead games, was it not?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to just talk about that like a little bit? Kind of.
Well, Beavis and Butthead came out on the Sega Genesis and the SNES, and I don't know, back in those days, at least for me, maybe this is my preference coming out, but the Super Nintendo version was always a better version of those games. But in this case, they're not the same game. They're completely different, and the Genesis version is more like Maniac Mansion, where it's like you walk around and collect things and do things for people to get further in the game. It's so much better. The Super Nintendo version is just walk to the right and beat people up.
Right. Yeah, and I actually, not to go way off topic, but that's one thing I do kind of miss about that era of gaming is you had a game that was based on the same thing, whether it be a license or whatever, but there would be two different versions, one for, say, the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, and they would be drastically different, which I thought was a good thing. I thought it was way better to have variety instead of, well, the same exact fucking game comes out on the Xbox One and PS4. What's the difference anymore between the systems?
Yeah, that's true, because today they are pretty much identical, but back then they were usually kind of the same, but then every once in a while it was it just worked better on that controller, or it worked better with that game, that system's graphics or whatever. Right, yeah. And yeah, I don't know, I just kind of missed that, but yeah, I actually haven't played either of those games, and I didn't know the premise of, I don't know, was it both of them where you're trying to get gore tickets or something? Yeah, you're supposed to get tickets for, your tickets get, they get eaten by a dog, and then the dog pukes, and there's little bits of the tickets in his puke, and then your neighbor, Mr. Anderson, comes by and goes over the puke with his lawnmower and blows them all over town. That's honestly the best premise for a video game I think I maybe have ever heard. That's awesome. So I'm gonna have to go back and try that. Yeah, I was really intrigued by your article. We do also have a few other things up this week. I posted a very lengthy article to coincide with the beginning of the NBA season, just sort of about some memories I have of the basketball genre, which I played a lot of as a kid and was a huge basketball fan as a kid. Not really so much anymore, but it was kind of fun for me to go back and look. And
kind of have a retrospective on that whole genre. So you can head over to retrovolve.com. All of those are right on the front page. Check those out. Leave us a comment. Leave us any feedback that you'd like to leave. We always do appreciate that. But with that said, I think we should just jump in to our top 10 countdown. This week's topic, the top 10 scariest, spookiest, and creepiest retro games ever made. Tim Evans, go ahead with your first pick.
I'm going to go with the obvious one first. I'm going to talk about Metroid. But we're very early, maybe even, no, I don't think it was launched, but it was very early NES title, Metroid, which really doesn't need much of an introduction. I think everyone's heard or played Metroid. But why I thought it was really like a good game in general was just because you felt like you were alone and you didn't know where to go or what to do other than the small blurb at the beginning of the game. And you're just this little, red-headed, yellow jumpsuited creature running around shooting a gun at aliens. And then as the game unfolds, you realize that it's basically a giant labyrinth. And then you get lost and you really don't know where to go, and you needed Nintendo Power to help you get to the end of the game, like I did.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said, and I actually kind of noticed that is sort of a theme with a lot of our picks, is the frightening aspects of isolation, without being alone and really having no direction where to go. I noticed that was kind of a common theme in a lot of our picks, which to me, yeah, that's sort of like the scariest situation, is being alone with no help, nobody to go to whatsoever, and having no idea what to do. And yeah, that's the exact sort of feeling I get when I play Metroid. To be fair, I am horrible at this game. I have tried multiple times to try to even make any sort of progress in it, but I'm just not any good at it. But go ahead.
I got to the end of it as a kid. I didn't beat it till I was an adult. I didn't actually beat it as a kid. Well, I did, but I needed Game Genie.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I unlocked it in my copy of that Game Boy Advance game, Metroid Fusion.
Yes, yeah, that's right. It was.
No, it wasn't. It was Metroid.
Zero Mission.
Zero Mission.
Yeah.
You could unlock the original Metroid, and then I played through it on that, and I beat it. But yeah, I didn't do it as a kid because it was such a huge. And they don't tell you what to do or where to go at all.
No, it's like isn't it? The opening of the game, it's just you jump out of a spaceship, and it's like, well, figure it out.
Here you go.
Yeah.
And you're the only person. There's no 2-player option or any other NPCs or anything around to give you hints. There's no text in the game at all.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this too is, I think as far as I know, at least this is the first example I can remember, this is really the first game where you kind of had freedom to go in any direction. In other games, of course, like Mario, Mega Man, whatever, when you start a level, you always pretty much went to the right. So you at least had that going for you, to where maybe you didn't know exactly what to do, but you had a direction. But this, on that first screen of Metroid, you can go left or you can go right, and from there you can go up, down, every which direction. So yeah, it is. It is just a very, like I said, gives you a very strong feeling of isolation, and I really do like that about it. That really helps the game. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this.
It definitely harkens back to movies like Alien, where it's one person alone with aliens.
Right.
I don't know if that was one of their inspirations or not, but I think it takes a special quality of programming and design to make a game where you don't know where you're supposed to go and you're not given any kind of direction, and make it work as a good game.
Yeah, and just not completely alienate the player by just giving them so little direction or functionality that it just makes the game a chore to go through. I think, yeah, that Nintendo certainly deserves commendation for that. Yeah, making this game where you were given no direction and really were all on your own, but at the same time, giving the player enough freedom to really stick with it. And yeah, I don't know. Obviously, this is an amazing game. Definitely gonna probably rank fairly high on the list, but we have a lot to go yet. Is there anything you wanted to add onto the discussion for Metroid?
Oh, no. I want to hear your first pick.
All right. So with my first pick, I think I'm going to start off with the heavy hitter as well. And maybe there's some people that will kind of scoff at this, saying, "Oh, it's not retro." And maybe you're right. You know, the definition of what is retro and what isn't is really subjective. My definition is, if it's not the last generation of consoles, but the generation before, it's retro. So this qualifies for me, and the first game I'm going with is Resident Evil 4 for the Nintendo GameCube. And this game is fucking terrifying. Just let me start with that. This is a game pretty much everybody's played now, and I think it was the first Resident Evil game I played, you know, at any... I put a considerable amount of time into it. My parents didn't allow me to have like scary, creepy sort of games like this when I was growing up. But when I got older, I had my GameCube and I bought this game, and like the scene in like that first town where you first see the guy with a fucking burlap sack and the chainsaw, when you see like him appear on the screen and charge at you, I remember just being like, yeah, fuck this shit. And like, I just shut off my GameCube. I'm like, nope, not gonna do it. And
yeah, pretty fucking scary.
Right. And especially, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a person that gets easily, you know, frightened by these sorts of things. But when I saw that, I don't know if I was more just intimidated than anything. Like, here I am, just this scrawny little fuck with a pistol. And this guy is just fucking like 7 foot tall guy with a sack on his head and a chainsaw. It scared the shit out of me. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this. Not gonna go down that road.
The game was definitely really scary.
Yeah, and just the whole like the Eastern European, the setting and everything about it just contributed to this overall overwhelming feeling of just like you're just helpless. It felt like.
Well, the art direction was really good in the way that they designed the way the world looks. It goes from like, you know, a fall type this time of year, you know, nearing winter kind of forest, like village, to, you know, gothic scenery like churches and shit like that. And that was really that, and the fact that you're alone for the majority of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'm trying to remember. I know I eventually I got pretty good at this game at one point and did get pretty far into it, and I don't think that I beat it. I just think I got to a point where I just kind of got pissed off because, like, you know, like we said last week, I'm terrible at video games, and if I get to a point in some games where it's like, no, I'm not going to beat this, I'm like, yeah, fuck it, give up.
It's a really long game too. I mean, it's 2 GameCube discs.
Right?
First
Yeah,
off.
and I mean I don't
there
even know.
Wasn't too many 2-disc GameCube games. There was like maybe a handful.
Yeah, I'm trying to even think of any others.
Well,
I'm pretty sure there was at least a couple more, but yeah, this is the only one I can think of.
Tales of Symphonia. I believe that was 2.
Yep, I think you're right. But yeah, I mean,
that's the only other one I can think of that I had.
Yeah, and just I don't know, but I mean, beyond being just terrifying, this game is actually it's such a phenomenally, you know, it's just so well put together. They updated the game mechanics a little bit, because I don't believe Resident Evil 3, correct, was still like the fixed backgrounds and
yep, yeah, it was still fixed background. Those shitty fucking tank controls.
Oh my god, I know. Like, going back, like after I played this, I went back and tried to play some of the older ones just to kind of get an overall understanding for the rest of the series. And yeah, after playing this game, and even this Resident Evil 4 feels sort of outdated now, but
yeah,
the old Resident Evil is just I can't even play them anymore. But
at the time, I remember being completely blown away. Because I had played Resident Evil 2 when it was new, and then 3 a little bit when it was new. But then when 4 came out, I was blown away by the fact that they fixed the controls, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They got rid of those fucking awful Tomb Raider-esque tank fucking controls where up is forward, left and right is turn, and down is back.
Yep.
Oh, it's so fucking bad.
Yeah, and talk about games that have aged horribly. Tomb Raider is, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. There's fanboys out there of the original controls of Resident Evil. They go, "Oh, it was better. You just suck. You got to get used to it." No, they fucking suck.
No, the controls were the way they were because the hardware limitations wouldn't allow for them to, render these backgrounds in real time. They had to be preset static backgrounds, and the controls were the way they were just because
they had to be.
Yeah, they had to be, and yeah, no.
Yeah, it was really. There's a bunch, like pretty much any survival horror game from that era had that control, like Fear Effect.
Oh God, yeah. I actually recently went back and tried to play that too, and no.
At least that game's funny.
Yeah, I didn't get very far in it. I think I found it at like a thrift store, but yeah, was Time Crisis?
No, Dino Crisis.
Dino Crisis. I was like, Time Crisis, I think, is the light gun shooter.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah. Anyways, back to Resident Evil 4. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it. It's creepy as fuck. It's scary as hell, and I don't know. Yeah, it's just when we decided on this topic, it was one of the first ones I thought of, and I did kind of debate like, is it really retro? But ultimately, I decided that it was. It's actually, I think it's 10 years old this year. Maybe. Yeah.
I think so. I have my copy sitting here.
Yeah.
But I can't find the date on it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, it's on the list no matter what. It's our fucking show. We can do what we want. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there's my pitch for Resident Evil, and we will go on to your next pick.
My next pick is going to be Jurassic Park for the Sega Genesis. And this was right around the same time as the movie came out, I think. It was either that or slightly afterwards.
Yeah, I think it was pretty close.
It was a nice movie tie-in. But the game was scary as hell. I mean, the movie was scary as hell for me at the time because I was such a little kid. I don't know, 12, I think, maybe 11. But the opening of the game totally puts you into that Jurassic Park feeling. It's got like this drum beat music, this like, very prehistoric sounding, movie sounding music, and it shows the T-Rex attacking the Land Cruiser. The screen starts to flicker black and white, and it's, oh my god, it's so scary. And then you're put into the game where, once again, as long as you choose Grant, well, actually, if you choose Grant or the Raptor, you're alone. You're alone again. And you're just in the park trying to survive. Trying to get to the end of the level and not die. And it really puts you into that movie feeling. I think they really captured the movie well with this one.
Yeah, I actually completely agree. This is one I had actually played a lot of a few years ago when I go through phases, and I was in a big Genesis phase, and when I looked this one up, I'd totally forgotten about it. But I mean, not only is it everything that you said it was in terms of, putting you in the atmosphere of the film and the time period, but it's just such a damn well-designed platformer. Like, that's what I remember about it, is just how instantly I, started up the game and just felt immediately comfortable with controls and everything. I don't know if that's something you recognized about it, but that's the first thing that I thought of when I kind of pulled this one up.
Yeah, the controls are great. It's a good example of you can make a good movie tie-in game. And they did a great job with it as far as, like, not only making the sets, like, the levels look like the sets of the movie, but then also making them work as a game.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's really cool that you can play as either a dinosaur or Grant, Dr. Grant.
Yeah, I'd actually completely forgot about that.
Two totally different game experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely, until you just said that, I forgot that you could, because I always pick Dr. Grant, but yeah, I forgot that you had the choice there, which, yeah, that's such a, and was it like, was the game the same thing, like, level wise, if you chose the dinosaur?
Yeah, it was the same, but you had to get through the level differently because you're bigger and the enemies are different.
Okay.
So it was a completely different game depending on who you played. Like the second level, if you're Grant, you have to like lower electrical gates and do things like that. But if you're the Velociraptor, then you just jump over that shit.
Yeah.
Because you can jump so high.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I vaguely remember that now, but what I'm trying to remember what the weapons were. Didn't you have it was like a dart gun, and then you had like these grenade things for Dr. Grant?
Yeah, you had like sleep grenades, you had tranquilizer darts.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
had I think you had some other kind of dart too that I think just did damage.
Yeah. And yeah, I just remember just the weapons were really cool. I mean, you didn't have very many, but it worked really well, and just the fact that this was not only a platformer game, but a movie tie-in in the 90s, and it was good, is a pretty damn miraculous feat on its own, because there was so many of both of those things, and there's so many of them that were just absolute shit, and obviously just cashing in on the license that was acquired to make the game. But this is one of the few examples where, not only did it, it mirrored a lot of the aesthetic of the movie well, but it also made for a great game. Honest, even if this didn't have a Jurassic Park license, it would have been a great game, which I think is highly commendable. And yeah, this is to me, one of the best Genesis games out there, I think. Period.
Yeah, it pleases both parks because it pleases people who are fans of the movie, and it pleases people who maybe hadn't seen the movie. Like a lot of kids weren't able to see it because their parents were like, "No."
Right. Yeah, and
take you to see that.
I think I actually played this for the first time before I saw the movie. I think I maybe seen the movie only once or twice. It's not a movie I'm terribly familiar with, but yeah, like you said, even though I'm not, that familiar with the franchise or a huge Jurassic Park fan or anything, I absolutely love this game. It's everything you said it was and more. So I definitely think it deserves a spot on this list. So we will.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll move on then. Which one do I want to do next? I want to do Medieval for the PlayStation. And this game isn't, I guess it's not so much scary as my last pick was. It's set in like a typical, scary, spooky atmosphere, but it is kind of a humorous game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it's so good that I had to put it on this list. I think it's creepy, but in a comical way. And this is one of the few PlayStation games that I can go back to now and just sit down for hours with and have fun with. And if you haven't played this game, you are a I don't know, how would you describe him? Just a...
You're an asshole if you haven't played this game.
Well, not... Yes.
If you haven't played Medieval, you're an ass.
What I was trying to get at is you play as yeah, you are an asshole if you haven't played this game. You play as Sir Daniel Fortescue, who is an ancient knight brought back to life. I think the story is he died during a great battle, thousands and thousands of years ago. And I honestly don't remember that much about the storyline, because this is one of those games where it's really not that important.
It is funny though, because they say that he's like revered as this hero, that he like conquered this great evil, and then in reality he didn't.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a lie, and he's supposed to come back to prove that he's a badass.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's I wish I would have had time to kind of go back and play this. I actually do have a copy of this. I finally, like a couple of years ago, I saw it at a game shop, and it was like $30, but I'm like, you know what? It's time that I own this game.
It's a great game.
Oh, it's so good. And the only opportunity I had to play it as a kid, which I'm sure a lot of people are the same way, is I think it came on one of those Pizza Hut demo discs for the PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
With like the 1 or 2 levels, and I played it over and over and over and over. It just made me laugh. You could tear off your arm and throw it and kind of boomerang back to you. It's just it is yeah, like I said, it's not terribly spooky or creepy. It has that atmosphere, but overall very funny, very humorous, very very smart PlayStation game.
You could tell that if this game was a movie, it would be done by Tim Burton.
Oh yeah, and it would be a great movie.
It would. It would be like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, except I don't know. I think this would be better, but
yeah, I agree. I think the movie's overrated, but the game itself, it's just it's nothing super special as far as the game goes. You walk around with your sword and you whack guys and you get items to open up doors, but the way it makes you feel is like kind of like Halloween. It's not scary. It's that creepy, but it's happy at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I played this when I was a kid, and I never felt scared by it. Like even though it's like spooky graveyard atmosphere.
Yeah.
And like you said, it isn't the gameplay isn't terribly deep or anything. It's like you said, like you so eloquently put, you walk around and whack guys.
Yeah. You just whack guys.
Yeah. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and it does actually kind of get pretty hard later in the game. Once I actually did go back and play the full version a few years ago when I got it, it can be pretty difficult. But it still is. It's still well worth playing, in my opinion.
You get different weapons too as you go, so that helps. Like you get like a better sword a couple of times.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think you get like different shields too, don't you?
I do believe so. Like,
you get stuff to help you. You get like health power ups.
Right. And there is like a lot of like, health regenerating spots throughout most of the levels. And like I said, maybe it's just that maybe this game is super easy. I just suck at video games. That could very well be the case.
No, it's not that easy.
Yeah. I don't know.
It does get harder near the end. I haven't played the PlayStation version in a long time. I did play it when I was a kid, like when it was on the PlayStation first. But I played it recently on the PSP because they remade it for the PSP.
Really?
Yeah, it's like they gave it the HD treatment.
Huh? Because I knew there was a PSP one, but I did not know it was a remake.
Yeah, it's from the ground up as far as like the graphics and the sound go.
Was that Medieval or Resurrection? Was it called?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go track that down.
I mentioned it somewhere. I think I mentioned it in one of my articles over at the sister site, Geek Party.
Oh, nice.
But it's they redid it with a new intro that's like fully voiced. Everything's fully voiced. And then the game is exactly the same. It just
no
high
shit.
definition graphics.
That's super cool. I've never owned a PSP, but they're so affordable now that they're kind of their life has passed, and there's so many of them out there. I think I'm gonna have to go out and pick one up now because I knew they had a PSP, but I thought it was just a brand new game, which would have been worth playing either way.
Yeah, but it's just a remake of the first one. There was a sequel on the PlayStation, wasn't there? I believe there was a Medieval 2.
I think there was actually, and I
didn't play it though.
That might have been what I'm thinking of. I'm actually going to look that up because I'm almost certain that there was, and that's kind of the next thing I was going to bring up about this game is that why has there not been a sequel to this? And I'm looking right now. There is a Medieval 2 for the PlayStation, released in 2000, but other than that, there has not been a new Medieval game other than the remake that you had mentioned for the PSP or the PSP, and I can't for the life of me think of why that would be, especially with Sony that doesn't have that many good exclusive properties anymore.
Well, this is in-house Sony too, isn't it?
Right? Yeah. Like, I don't know. This could be a game that if they made a new one would be. I don't know. Obviously, the name value has diminished since they haven't really done anything with it in 15 years. But I think if this was a franchise they were to revive, could be a really good exclusive for the PS4 and the PS Vita. I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I mean, it's got infinite potential as far as what they could do. They could have all sorts of levels for DLC. They could have different characters other than Fortescue. I mean, they could do a lot with it.
Yeah, and even like Dan Fortescue is just such a good character, and
he is.
Like,
he's awesome.
That was one of the sole reasons I was excited for that Smash Brothers ripoff they made a few years ago.
Oh yeah, the was it PlayStation All Stars?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was Dan Fortescue and Parappa the Rapper was like the only reason I actually wanted to play it. But yeah, I just yeah, it's weird to me why.
Do they have Jammer Lammy in there?
I don't know for sure. Like I said, I've only played it a couple times, but I would doubt it.
Damn.
Yeah.
I liked Jammer Lammy better than Parappa.
Yeah, I don't even know if I played that one. I only think I played a demo of Parappa, but that's definitely on my short list of games that I want to go back and play again soon. Because I don't know. I guess we'll save Parappa the Rapper discussion for another time. There's probably some top 10 somewhere that it'll fit on at some point.
Oh yeah.
But we'll wrap up the discussion on Medieval for now. I just kind of wanted to rant about why the fuck they're not doing anything with the character or the franchise, but
it needs a sequel.
Yeah, it does.
It needs more sequels.
Yeah, it was like the original game is still good now. Like imagine like how good a new version would be that's you know made with modern, or they could even do like a similar type of game but have it be like a downloadable game for like $20.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even need to be like a full retail release game. It could be something like this with better graphics.
Well, I was just thinking how amazing a medieval game would look. Did you ever play was it something Game Heroes on the PlayStation
3D
3?
Game Heroes. Yeah, that was one of the reasons I bought a PS3.
Yeah, imagine that, like, toyish, claymation-ish looking graphics with medieval. That would look awesome.
Holy shit. Or like, yeah,
just like a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, or like yeah, that just makes me think of that fighting game Clay Fighters. I don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah.
Like a style like that would be hilarious.
And those were so awesome up until the N64 one.
Oh god, that game was such a disaster.
Yep.
Anyways, we're going to move on. We're going on so many tangents right now. We'll wrap up the talk on Medieval and go on to your next pick.
I'm going to talk about Simon's Quest, Castlevania 2. And for me, this was a really nostalgic game. I borrowed this from my cousin when I was a little kid. And then I really wanted it after that. Ended up getting it for, I think, Christmas or something. But, yeah, Simon's Quest, typical Castlevania game with a little bit of difference to it, I suppose. You don't go linear from level to level, beating a boss and moving on. It's more of a free roaming, talking to townspeople, getting new weapons, getting new items, and then going to these mansions to collect Dracula's body parts so you can resurrect him and then kill him once and for all. But for me, the game was really eerie.
So he's already dead? But then
you killed him in the first game, but he's going to be resurrected in 100 years.
Okay, so...
Things as they are.
Okay. Alright. Yeah,
it's kind of weird. Like, he's already dead, why would you bring him back?
Yeah, just to kill him again.
Well, because Simon killed him in the first Castlevania game,
right?
But he's resurrected every 100 years, and so what Simon's trying to do in this one is he's trying to kill him once and for all by bringing him back and killing him the right way, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how that's supposed to work. The game doesn't really make that too clear.
Yeah, whatever.
But it's another game where even though there's towns, again, you feel pretty alone. And for me, as a kid, I think I was like, 8 or 9 years old when I played it. It was really scary. I mean, like, because you didn't know where to go, and when you get to these mansions, it's always a surprise. When you get to them, you just walk on a screen, and you see a door to a mansion, and you go in, and it's always something a little different. And some of them have bosses in them. I think 2 of them have bosses in them, and then the rest don't. But you never know. As a kid, you would never know. And I just thought it was a generally good game. Like, it kept you guessing, kept you figuring things out, kind of freaked you out. It turns to night every 5 minutes or so when you're out in the game world.
Yeah, what's that quote? I just played this a little bit today. It's like you walk out from that first town into like the woods, and it says like the curse has befallen the night or something. And
what a horrible night to have a curse.
Yes, that's what it was. I'm like, God, that is like the coolest thing ever.
And then when morning comes, it says the morning sun has vanquished the horrible night.
That's just so metal. Like, goddamn.
It is. The whole game is really reminiscent of like Hammer horror films.
Yeah.
Like Christopher Lee horror films from the 70s. And yeah, the whole thing is pretty awesome. Really hard to figure out. I remember I had to have Nintendo Power by my side to play the game when I finally got it.
Yeah.
As a kid, but yeah, really excellent, really good Castlevania game. Totally overlooked. What did you think?
See, the Castlevania games are really a hard thing for me to judge fairly because I'm especially bad at these games. Like, every single one from the first one, I had Symphony of the Night for the PlayStation. Like, everybody keeps telling me how good Castlevania is, and every time I try to sit down and play one, I just get pissed because I'm so bad.
Really hard.
They are really hard, and it to me that ruins it. I try to look at it objectively, but I just struggle. So I want to like Castlevania, I really do. And like you said, there's so many cool elements about it, like what I mentioned earlier, just the really metal sounding quotes it has, and like the Transylvanian theme of it is so cool to me, and that's stuff I really like. But I just get so frustrated with these games. Like, I died in this game in that first town because you have to jump over from like block to block, and there's like
you fell in the water.
I fell in the water, and like
Yep.
It's not even an actual stage. It's like I'm walking around talking to people, and I died because I fell in a river. Like, just clumsily fucking tumbled off the street and fell into the river and died. I'm like, because like you have to get the jump still like so pixel perfect. Like the fucker can barely jump, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the nice thing about Simon's Quest, and after I had played it as a kid, I played the original Castlevania a couple years later. But a nice thing about the original, or about Simon's Quest, is that, you know, if you die, you don't lose your stuff. If you game over, you don't lose your stuff. You can continue on. You lose your money. If you've been saving up for a new weapon or an item or something, you lose everything you've saved up when you game over, which does suck.
yeah.
But you don't lose everything else you've had. You can continue on.
Yeah. I guess I didn't notice that. The emulator I used, it has like a rewind function, so that's how I play these games. So I just map the rewind to a button on my controller, and if I die, I just rewind back 5 seconds and do it over again.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah. So, but that is a really cool feature. I can't imagine me playing this game as a kid and not just getting infuriated by it, because without having a feature like that, these games become utterly unplayable to me, and it's no fault of the game itself, really. I realize this is a franchise that's adored by so many people, and that's probably for good reason. I just myself have never, for whatever reason, I can't get into Castlevania. It's just one of those things.
They're too hard.
Yeah, and, you know, there are a lot of people that are actually good at games, and they probably love these, and, you know, fair enough. I
suck at games, and I still love Castlevania just because I think it goes back again to my love of, like, monster movies and horror films.
Yeah.
Growing up, that I can't stay away from them, but I do suck really bad. I was really happy when they switched over to the Symphony of the Night style, where it's more like a RPG.
Oh, dude.
You can level up and get new items and save. And that was a really big bonus for me, because I was like, oh, good, finally, I don't have to be good.
Right. And like I said, I had played that game a little, and just, yeah, once it got to that point, the art direction in the series just, it just got so just good.
Well, not to say that the art direction in the earlier games wasn't good too. 'Cause
No.
if you look at those, like, the covers of the first 3 Castlevania games on the NES, that artwork could be on the cover of, like, a metal album. It's so fucking cool.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. It's totally that like 1980s heavy metal sort of aesthetic to it, which I really dig.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to rate this one. Trying to look at it objectively. But I, like you'd mentioned, like, I do like how it added sort of the element of, you know, going around and talking to people, and like there's like that like in that first town, like that sorcerer that tries to sell you drugs or something.
Yeah.
Want to buy some white rock? Like,
You actually have to buy that.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe
You
that
have
was.
to buy his crack to move on. Because you have to trade his crack for someone else's crack, and then trade that crack for someone else's crack, and you have to use those items. Yeah, everything is useful.
So this is like just Transylvanian drug bartering?
Yeah,
Oh.
pretty much.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll have to go back and give this game another shot, because it certainly sounds interesting.
There's one point in the game where there's like a river that you can't, or like a big area of water you can't get over, and you have to have the right crystal equipped, and then kneel by it, and then the water, the screen moves down, and you see there's a stairway under the water, and go down there. How the fuck would you know that? No one tells you how to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like a lot of these games back then had that. Like, how the fuck would you know how to do that? Like, if you didn't have Nintendo Power telling you how to do that.
I mean, even like trying every possible thing, how would you ever think to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll end talk on that one for now. I will go on to my next pick then, which I think I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with King's Quest VII for the PC. This one will kind of be a little shorter of a discussion. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I just remember being horribly creeped out by this game when I was a kid, because it came preloaded on our compact Presario that my dad bought in, I think it was like 1994. We got it. And I distinctly remember at the beginning of the game, you play this old lady and you're walking around and you go out into this like open desert and there's like nothing at all. And all of a sudden, like this creepy, like pale desert wanderer guy starts following you around, and it just always scared the shit out of me. I mean, given I was like 7 years old, but I just remember always just being so creeped out by that, and I never really knew what to do in these games. Like, I didn't really understand the concept of a point-and-click adventure. Then you had to find items, you know, give this item to this person, use this item on the statue, whatever it may be. And it did have a function where you could, like, skip to different chapters. There's, like, a menu in the main menu, and you can go to chapter 5 or whatever. So I would move around between the chapters, have no idea what was going on in the story, but there's, like, I remember there's one where you're like in this black cloak. You're like the princess girl in this black cloak, and you walk up to this house, and there's a gargoyle sitting there, and you walk up to the gargoyle and try to go in the house, and it jumps up and like kills it, jumps on you and squashes you and kills you. And I just remember being so terrified by that, like this innocent cartoony looking game where this fucking stone gargoyle comes to life and fucking stomps a princess. Like, it just was so weird and creepy, and I don't know, like, I haven't actually played this game in years, so I might just have this totally skewed, messed up version of it in my mind, but I had to put it on this list because it's probably the game that creeped me out the most as a kid.
Yeah, the King's Quest games and all the Sierra point-and-click games had a really good knack for, like, not having you know what the hell's going to happen next and what's going to kill you.
Right.
Like, I remember playing Space Quest, and, like, the same kind of thing happened where just, like, you'd be walking along, and then, boom, dead. Something fucked up would happen, and you'd die.
Yeah.
And, yeah, King's Quest VII, you know, anything can kill you, pretty much. You have to know exactly where you're going in order to survive, plus the point-and-click elements.
Yeah, then that was the fucked up thing about it. It's like, it reminded me as a kid, like, of, you know, Alice in Wonderland, you know, Disney animation style. So it's like this cute, colorful, innocent enough looking world where literally anything at any time can fucking murder you. Like, I just thought that was so fucked up.
Pretty much.
But
the animation is really good.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Looks like Don Bluth.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Looking back at it now, yeah, it's like the sort of like Dragon's Lair type of animation. It's really cool looking. I went and watched just a quick YouTube video of it before doing this. I couldn't actually go back and play it, but yeah. Aside from me being creeped out by it as a little kid, yeah, the animation is absolutely gorgeous, and I think
good fucking luck getting this to work on a modern computer.
Right, and I found like it was like King's Quest anthology at a half price books or something, shrink wrapped and everything, and I bought it about a year back thinking, yes, I can finally play this game. And yeah, I've tried to install it on every computer I have, and none of them will fucking work worth a damn. And there's actually, at that same half price books, there was a full boxed copy of the original King's Quest 7, which it was like $40, and I almost bought it multiple times, but not being able to play it, and it'd be more of a novelty than anything. But
I think 7 is the most famous of the entire series, probably because it was packaged with so many home computers at the time.
Right. That's exactly what I was gonna say too. I don't think it's regarded by fans of the series, and I know there are a lot of people that really, really love these games, and I think for good reason, even though some of the earlier ones, it goes back to like kind of what you're saying with Castlevania, like some of the solutions to the puzzles, like how the fuck would you ever guess to do like some of the stuff you had to do?
Oh yeah. Like in 5, I remember you had to like do some crazy shit with a coin that would make no sense to any logical human being. But yeah, you had to like figure out just what the hell?
Yeah.
How would anyone consider this option?
Right. But I mean, at the same time, it's like the puzzles are so complicated that the feeling of satisfaction you get when you like solve one is so immense that, I get why people are attracted to these games. Like, I someday want to go back and play some of these King's Quest games, because I've read so much about them, and they're obviously, especially the earlier entries, are so important to early PC gaming. Like I think there's another one that you got coming up too that's really instrumental in the history of PC gaming. But is this series one that you really played much of yourself?
I played, like I said, 5. I played King's Quest 5 because it was on the Nintendo. I didn't have a computer as a kid.
Okay.
But I played some other Sierra point-and-click games at some friends' houses because they had computers, and they had, like, the Space Quest series.
Oh, yeah.
And those were really, kind of exactly the same thing, but just if you were into sci-fi instead of medieval stuff.
Yeah. I didn't play. I think this might have been the only Sierra game that I had played growing up, just like you said, because it was packaged with the computer. But looking back on the catalog, like, they had so many good games that eventually I want to go back and try to play, and perhaps that can be in a top 10 at some point, because I think their contributions to gaming, especially PC gaming, is, I don't know, I think it's something not maybe a lot more of the casual gamer is not aware of, and I think they did a lot that definitely needs to be recognized. So I guess this is the first step on giving them the recognition they need. Maybe not in the way they intended, but hey, it is what it is. So that's my pitch for King's Quest 7, and
sure.
Unless there's anything more you want to add to that discussion, go ahead and introduce your next pick.
I'm going to talk about another game that was really good, really, like you said, really instrumental for PC gaming at the time, and that's Myst, which was, I believe, made by Broderbund, or at least distributed by them. That was
I think it was. I read this in a book a while ago. I think they distributed it, but I think it was like some other studio that produced it or developed it. But anyways, go on.
Yeah, and this was a game that I didn't have as a little kid, but my best friends, so I used to sleep over at their house a lot, they had on their computer, and sometimes I would like sneak off and play it on their computer, and it was entrancing because it's like a point and click adventure game, but not pointing and clicking. You actually walk around in this world, like you go left, go right, go forward, and everything is a puzzle. Everything is a lever or a mechanism to open a door. And at least for me, not having reading the manual or anything, I had no idea who I was, where I was, or what I was supposed to be doing. It was just you're alone on this little island with a bunch of structures, and you got to figure out what to do. And once again, going back to that feeling of loneliness and isolation, it just made you feel like, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? It was really terrifying, I think.
Yeah, I was so happy that you added this to your list. It's one, like, when I saw you put it on your list, like, why the fuck did I not think of this one? Because, like you said, this is a game I didn't have, but seemingly everybody else that had a computer had this fucking game. And I remember the first time I played this was on my uncle's computer, who is kind of, he was really big into PC gaming, and he said, hey, he knew I liked video games. He's like, you have to see this. And, like, seeing that for the first time, I think this came around in 95-ish, around that point.
Like that.
Like, just, even though they are just still images, that it's not like a fully rendered real-time 3D world, which there would eventually be a version of the game released like that.
But I didn't like it.
Yeah, I actually
didn't care for it.
Yeah, I haven't played it, so I can't really speak on it. But I just remember how good it looked, even though it was still images. Just the fact that the images presented were as crisp as they were. Just that was the first thing that impressed me. But once you start playing the game, I mean, you nailed it. Like, you don't even know who you are. You don't know why you're on this isolated island. Like, there's this little, like, weird cinematic intro that doesn't really make any sense, and just kind of
tell you anything. No,
you're actually more confused after hearing it than had you just gone into it without it. Like, it's it's weird. You like, it's less understanding than no understanding at all. It's the weirdest thing. And yeah, like you said, the whole game it's just basically one string of, like, really intricate puzzles. And this is a game that I will never be able to beat without a strategy guide. And I'm sure 90% of people that played it were the same exact way. It's damn near impossible.
And the sequel's even worse.
Yeah,
I think it's called Riven.
Riven, yep. I think there was like 4 or 5 sequels. I had
something like that.
Yeah, I had some friends that were really into them, but I really only played the first one. But I still remember, I can vividly remember sitting in my uncle's office and just, like, walking around this world. I don't think I even really ever got around to solving any puzzles because I was a stupid little kid. But
and it's hard.
Yeah, but it is terrifying. Like, the whole time I was expecting, like, a monster to come out and kill me. It never happens. But I think a really, really, maybe not underrated, but just an aspect of this game that kind of adds to that atmosphere that a lot of people don't think of is the soundtrack.
Yep.
It's so minimal, and just like the combination of the really minimalistic orchestral score with, like, just the sounds of, like, the wind blowing and the trees and the reverb when you're in in the basement of one of the buildings. It just it creates such a cool atmosphere.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's credit. It works really well with the world, and I don't have a whole lot more to say about it because there's been a lot said about Myst by other people
right,
who can more eloquently say it than I can. But yeah, I think that it's not really listed as a creepy game by a lot of people, but at least for me, and this might just be nostalgia glasses, but I think it's really scary.
No, it is, and I'm more of a fan of the word I used before, the minimalist approach to scaring me. Like, I don't need shock and the just things
gore.
Popping. Yeah, like that's not what scares me. What scares me is a feeling of helplessness and just a really not knowing what you're doing, an unknown world. And yeah, this game, I think, maybe captures it better than any other game on this list, to be honest with you. just that overwhelming feeling of what the fuck is going on, and am I going to get out of this alive without starving to death? It's just
less is more.
Yeah, and it's such a cliche saying, but it could not be any more true in this case. And I think that's kind of the philosophy I have with a lot of things, movies, music. I often think less is more is the better approach to take in many cases, and Myst certainly represents that well. Just one more thing I kind of wanted to bring up about this game is just how many fucking PCs this game sold, because this kind of became the killer app for PCs at a point. This was really like the first CD-ROM exclusive game, the game you needed a CD-ROM drive to play, and really showed off the capabilities of the CD-ROM as a gaming medium, which I don't know. I think is really.
I think
cool.
It opened a lot of doors for the platform of CDs as gaming. I think you're right.
Yeah, and I mean there are a lot. There's another game I almost put on this list. I don't know if you've ever played The Seventh Guest for PC.
I haven't, but my dad had it. And he liked it.
Yeah, I don't recall if that might have actually came before Myst. I don't exactly remember, but I don't know.
Around that same time, at least.
Right. Yeah, and just that game and this one, they really contributed a lot to kind of the revival of PC gaming after, because there's kind of a time in the 80s when PC gaming during the video game crash kind of really thrived, and then the NES came along and PC gaming, at least to my memory, I might be remembering this completely wrong, I was so young, but PC gaming kind of diminished in importance, and then really in the mid to late 90s you really saw it make a comeback. Obviously the CD-ROM was a big part of that, and Myst was certainly a big part of pushing that medium.
Well, when I was around that age, like when Nintendo was really on top of the world, I remember knowing friends that didn't have consoles. They played all their games on PCs, and I remember thinking they were kind of dorks.
Right.
But I was like, man, you don't have a console. You're not even playing real video games.
Well, and that's how I felt too, because as I've said before in a lot of my articles I've done, I wasn't allowed to have consoles for most of my childhood, and that's how I felt. Like I liked Commander Keen on my PC, but I always felt like, I wish I was playing Mario right now.
Yeah, when you were playing Commander Keen, I was playing Mega Man 2.
Right, and I'm like, Commander Keen's cool. Like, there's a lot of people that like that game. I still like it to this day, but I mean,
I love Commander Keen.
Yeah, but let's be honest, it's total Mega Man Mario knockoff for the PC. Yeah. That's all it was. I mean,
although it's got its own little charm to it. But
right,
anyway.
And yeah, I completely agree with that. But yeah, like you said, it's just, I wished I was playing a console back then. So. Anyway,
CDs did a lot for computers.
Right.
CDs really brought it back.
Yeah, so I think Myst, for the purpose of this list, the scariness and creepiness factor really will score well on this, but I think it does need to be acknowledged for its contributions to PC gaming as a whole as well. So with that said, I am going to move on to my next pick. I think I have two left. I'm going to go with Adventure for the Atari 2600. I know that probably seems a little weird for a list like this, like it's Atari 2600 game and you're a dot, like how is that scary? But it kind of is for the same, like I said, there's kind of that theme of just emptiness and just being so helpless in your surroundings, and given you are just a little dot, but I don't know what it is about this game, but I just get so tense when I play it. If you've never played Adventure, the object is, you're, like I said, you're a little dot and you walk around sort of this labyrinth, and there are a few different game modes that you can select with the Switch on the Atari. One being the easiest and goes all the way up to 3, which the duck dragons are faster.
Duck dragons.
Yeah, that's kind of been the joke with Adventure over the year, that the dragons actually look like ducks, which I totally agree. They totally look like ducks.
Yeah, they do.
But there's like the worst part of this game, the part that pisses me off, is the motherfucking bat that flies around that comes and steals your fucking items, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's that to me is like the most tense part of this game. Is you've got say, the chalice that you need. And the object of the game is to find the chalice and bring it back to the castle that you have to unlock first and avoid dragons. That's just this whole big process of finding the chalice, unlocking the castle, and bringing it in. And you go collect the chalice after unlocking the castle, and the fucking bat comes and steals your goddamn chalice and runs away with it. And it's so fucking infuriating.
So one of the scariest parts about the game is the fact that you have to do all this and avoid that bat.
Right.
And the tenseness it's the tension that's scary.
Yeah, exactly.
When is it going to happen? Am I going to lose my shit?
Yeah, exactly. And also added to that is that there's a lot of parts of the map that are very maze-like. So you kind of have to learn the route you need to take to navigate through it. And there's a lot of dead ends. And the worst part is that the dragons, they're not encumbered by the walls, so they can go anywhere on the screen at any time, and you have to follow the constraints of the labyrinth. So if you don't know where you're going and you're running from the dragons, that some of them are really, really fast, and you get stuck at a dead end, you get eaten and you die. And that's maybe the scariest part of the game is at the end when you get eaten by the dragon and it doesn't go to like a game over screen. Your little dot self is sitting in the dragon's belly, and you can still kind of move around in the belly. It's kind of morbid, actually.
That's creepy.
Yeah, so you can like sit there and you're still moving around in the dragon's stomach, which it's creepy as shit.
And you can't get out, you're done.
Yeah, you're done. Like you can either sit there, you can sit there for the rest of the day if you want and fucking squirm around in the dragon's stomach. But otherwise, you have to reset or turn off the system. And it's a game that it barely has any sound. I think there's a sound when you start it up, and there's a sound when you get eaten by the dragon. But that's it. Other than that, it's complete silence the whole time. So it's just the tense silence while you're going around searching for these items. And in some of the later game modes, the maze isn't drawn on the screen. It's supposed to be like you're in the dark, so to speak. So you can only see within, a small radius around you. So it's really easy to get stuck in the maze and get eaten by a dragon. And I don't know. This game to this day just makes me tense up, and I can barely play it for more than 10 minutes because it drives me fucking crazy. Which, I don't know. It's weird, but I had to put it on this list for that very reason.
I never played it as a kid, but it sounds horrifying.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I probably played this game for the first time like 3 or 4 years ago, and I don't know. It just has that, like you said, this is the ultimate less is more minimalist approach to horror, if you ask me. Because just not only is it on the Atari 2600, it was an early Atari 2600 game that really didn't even maximize the limited hardware it already had, but it's still scary as shit to me, and I think that's commendable. I don't know. Anything else you want to add to this discussion?
I think I should go back and give it a shot. I think it's one of those like landmark games too.
It really is, and you can see a lot of influence this had on Legend of Zelda. Obviously, this is on a much, much smaller scale, but this really was kind of the first like open-ish world adventure game, and yeah, I think for that reason alone, it's worth playing just to kind of experience the framework of the action adventure genre.
I mean, it's just called adventure too. I mean, you can't get any more back than that.
Right, exactly. Like this is the original, straight up, just adventure. The name of the game is a genre.
The adventure game.
Yeah, and I did want to mention. I had right as you called me to do this, I'd never seen this happen before, but it was kind of fucking awesome. So I was walking around and I had the sword. It's either a sword or an arrow, I don't remember. But that's the only thing you can use to kill the dragons. So I had this and I was walking around searching for the dragon, and the bat came and stole it from me. And initially I was pissed because God damn it, I lost it. But then the dragon came on screen right as the bat was leaving the screen, and the bat killed the dragon with the sword. And I'm like, that's the fucking greatest thing I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just thought that was so cool that they didn't once the bat had the sword, it didn't render its power ineffective. It can still kill the dragon. So
that should be the cover of a Meatloaf album. A bat killing killing a dragon with a sword.
Oh my god. Let's see. I think I'm gonna need to Google this right now. Bat killing a dragon with a sword. That might need to be the title of this episode. A bat killing a dragon with a sword.
Oh, that painted on the side of my van.
Yeah, I need to get like a like a tattoo of that. But I like the van idea too. That's good. And unfortunately, it's not coming up with anything. If anybody's listening out there that's a really good like artist, feel free. We will use that as like the logo to our show from now until we stop doing it. Anyway, here we go. There's a screenshot of that happening from Adventure. That's one of the things that came up.
I want the pixels painted on the side of a van.
Oh, that's awesome. Anyways, we'll move on from talk and adventure. I think do you have one more pick?
I have one more, yeah, and it's a Sweet Home for the Famicom. And it was never released in the United States officially. There's an unofficial English translation.
Yeah, why the fuck wasn't it?
Because it was really fucked up, and Nintendo was against putting any kind of like creepy or blood or gore in their games, except for Monster Party for some reason.
Right. Wait. So the English translation is that just like a fan?
Yeah, it's a fanslation.
Huh?
Yeah.
Because that's I downloaded the ROM of this, and that's just the one I happened to get, I guess, because the one I played was all in English. So yeah. I didn't know that was like a fan project.
It's a really well done fan project because it looks legit.
No, I if you'd never mentioned that, I just would have thought that's how the game was.
This is one of those games that I bought on a reproduction card. Like, with a reproduction box, so it looked like it was a real NES game. Because I really like it. I love this game. This game is awesome.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I ended up selling that reproduction card. But yeah, well, you know how things go. You need money.
Yeah, well, yeah, you do need that.
But yeah, this game is a precursor to the Resident Evil series. This is kind of where that idea came from. Was Sweet Home originally. And it is a Capcom game.
Right, and I did notice that too. I'd never heard of this game before you introduced me to it. Yeah, but that's the first thing I thought of. You notice it like with the door swinging open animations when you enter a room. I was like, yep, this is like pre-Resident Evil.
It's like Resident Evil, Mark 1.
Right.
But yeah, you're in this house and you've got this group of people and they all have a different item or ability they can do. Like they can take a picture, or they have a lighter, or someone has a knife. And you're exploring this house. That's the whole thing, is you're exploring this mansion. And it's kind of like a point and click as far as like that goes, where you come into a room and you'll see something and you gotta interact with it. And, move on to the next room, but then every once in a while monsters will show up, and you gotta figure out how you're gonna kill it, or how you're gonna get by it. And some of the monster designs are so fucking good, I can't even do them justice describing them, but some of them are just so fucking cool. Like there's one, I remember, I think it was called like a Mama or Mamiya or something like that, but it's just like this awesome, like, blue bulging brain-looking demon with arms and then, like, rags coming off of it. It just looks really fucking cool. And the whole game really has that atmosphere of, like, a old-school Japanese horror movie where it's gory, it's gross, it's creepy, everything's gonna happen to you. And that's definitely the reason why it never came out in the United States, because Nintendo was afraid of offending us.
Oh, but that's such a fucking shame, and
it really is.
Oh my god, I honestly wish I would have had more time to. I only had like a half hour to play this morning because I've been so busy this week. But holy shit, like this, what at least in my short experience with it, what it reminds me, it's sort of like Final Fantasy mixed with Maniac Mansion, kind of, with the whole switching between your party members. That you can do, and just with a whole lot of fucked up shit going on. And I'm so fascinated by this game in the little bit of time I've had to spend with it, but Like honest, like I'm supposed to go to a Halloween party tonight, and I'm like legitimately considering just skipping that and playing this game tonight because
game is really fucking good.
yeah, it just planted this seed in my brain. Like I want to see where this goes, and like this is another one I didn't have to look up any information about it, learn how to play it. I could immediately jump in and figure out what to do. You start in this room, and you have to figure out how to get out of this room. And you know, all your players have this item, or there's what I think it's like five people in your party.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah, and they all have.
You control them all individually.
Yeah, and you can like group them up to like 3 people and go in like groups of 3.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, but you figure out each character kind of has their own specialty. They all have their own special item, and you figure out, oh, this person has a vacuum that you need to use to like vacuum up the glass on the floor so you can pass into the next room.
Yep.
And it just, I don't know, it's just so intuitive the way it's done, even with only having 2 buttons on the NES to do it. And yeah, like just the everything from the color schemes that they use to everything about it just conveys this sense of dread, and it makes me want to play it more. And I honestly, I can't wait to, because I really, really feel like once I have some time to spend with this game, it might be one of those games that's going to be like Mount Rushmore of NES games for me. Like it gives me that feeling even in the small time that I've had to spend with it.
Yeah, it's a really sweet game. It's actually based on a movie too, with the same name, Sweet Home. So
Really?
It's another movie tie-in game. It's a Japanese movie, so, you know, no one's ever seen it. It's on this side of the pond. I've never seen it. I looked for it, and I couldn't find a way to buy the movie.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't find it, because it's, you know, it's an old movie. It's like,
Yeah, I
think
suppose.
It's like 89 or 90 or something like that. But yeah, it's a movie tie-in video game, and from all accounts, a really good one. I wish I could have seen the movie to compare, because it's definitely a movie I want to take a look at.
Yeah, especially, I mean, that, like when I like get into a game like this, yeah, I kind of want to know like everything about it, and like, yeah, if there's a movie about it, I want to see it. So I don't know, maybe we'll have to keep an eye on that. See if there's any possible way at some point we can find a way to watch that movie, because I think that would be really cool to see.
In all reality, this is the first survival horror console game.
It is, and I think that it needs to be high on the list just on that alone. But the fact that it is as good of a game as it is, it's like survival horror / RPG. So it is kind of a little different than you would associate with, you know, some of the survival horror games that came after it. But I kind of like that, like the fact that, yeah, it's like a survival horror Final Fantasy in a way, which,
Yeah, because you get into battles.
yeah, and it's kind of like the God, what am I thinking of? Shit, I'm totally blanking on it. But it's like the not Monster Hunter.
Pokemon?
No, not Pokemon.
It's a horrible Pokemon game.
Yeah.
It's a scary Pokemon.
Fuck, I can't remember for the life of me, but yeah, it's that. It's not like Final Fantasy where all the characters are lined up on the left and right of the screen. It's kind of viewed from a first-person perspective, so you just have like the sprite of the monster in front of you.
So it's kind of like Dragon Warrior.
God damn it, that's what I was thinking of. Dragon Warrior. Fuck. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, it's kind of like Dragon Warrior, where you've got the sprite of the monster in front of you, and you're not seeing your characters.
Yeah, which I really like. It allows them to put a lot more attention to detail into the monster sprites, and I didn't get to see that many. I just saw like the evil dolls and the wisps and stuff that you encounter at the beginning of the game. But even those were really cool. Like
kind of like Shin Megami Tensei. Those games had the same kind of gameplay too, and those were also scary games.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I wish I could say more about this game. I just didn't have any time to spend with it, really. But
I don't have anything else to say about it other than people need to play it.
Right, and you can, like, I found the English version completely by accident, so it is widely available to go out there and play. I'm extremely thankful that people took the time to go in and translate this game, because it's one you would not be able to play if you didn't understand or couldn't read Japanese.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll wrap up discussion on Sweet Home. I have one left. I saved my personal most creepy, weird game for last. And this is actually another Japan exclusive, Sweet Home was, but this is LSD Dream Simulator for the Sony PlayStation. And this, it's not even really so much a game as it is just like
an experience.
Yeah, that's it. It's just this bizarre experience. The premise of the game, well, there really isn't a premise, but what it is, you wake up in this house, and it's a first person perspective, and you're given no direction on what to do. There really isn't any sort of goal you need to achieve anyways, but you walk around in this weird world in first person perspective, and anytime you run into anything, whether it be a wall or an object, it like transports you to another area in the world where you're going to encounter just all sorts of weird, bizarre shit. Like whether it's like a headless elephant floating up from a fluorescent green bottomless pit. Like, I'm not making this up. Like, that's not something that's something that happens in the game. Or like, you're going to find like a decapitated body in the middle of a dark alley, and a sailor off in the distance, where if you try to go up to him, he disappears, and then you're transported to a world with like psychedelic tie-dye colored like marching trumpeter people. It's the weirdest fucking thing. I know it sounds like I am drunk or high or something.
It's swear I'm contact high from the game.
It might be.
Because I just watched a video on it, and I have never played it myself. I'm going to, though. So I really want to play this. This looks like my kind of trip.
Dude, it's so worth playing. Like, it might sound like I'm trying to sell it. It's just this horribly stupid thing, but there's something about this game that keeps me coming back and just wanting to see what weird fucking shit I'm going to see next.
Well, yeah, and I think from the videos that I watched, it was just like something different every single time. Literally different.
Yeah.
In every sense. Like, there's like one part I saw someone walking into a like giant face with like writing all over its face, and then like eyes. It was, I don't know what was going on.
And it's even more than like the actual like the visible objects in the game. Even the music is like randomly generated in a way. Like, they produced a bunch of clips that sort of kind of fit together, and they basically just play at random. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to. So even like the music is different every single time you play it.
Is there an objective?
No, like, there's literally no objective. The game, you start off, and eventually your day will end. Like, it'll go to an end screen, and it has this like weird XY axis graph where it plots whether your dream was an upper or a downer, and I don't know how it determines that. But then you just go on to the next day and just see what other weird shit happens.
And it never ends.
No, it never ends. And like, occasionally one of your days will be like a weird, like, low res full motion video sequence, like, that doesn't make any sense. And then there'll be like Japanese writing like scrolling down over it. It's
oh my
you don't
God.
understand it at all, but you're like, I want to see what's gonna happen next. And then there's really only. Go ahead.
No, it sounds like the kind of game that you want to play again and again and again, just because different shit happens every time.
Right, and that's like I said, it's just different stuff happening all the time, weird, bizarre shit, and like after you play it for a while, there is only like a handful of environments that you're kind of being, you kind of cycle through exploring. So, but even like sometimes like the sky will be a different color, or like the textures will be something totally weird and different from what it was before. So it really does a good job that way of, even though it is kind of the same environment with a lot of the same objects, it in some cases it'll really turn up the weird on it, as weird as it already is. And like, there'll be like giant like geisha ladies just like 20 feet tall walking down the street, and just like, why? Like, what the fuck?
It looks and sounds horrifying.
Yeah, and it is. And the most horrifying is there's this guy that's called the Gray Man, and if you run into him, like that's really the only thing of any consequence that like ends your day, and you can't go back and revisit that day. Because how it works is like each day it kind of saves, and you can go back and revisit it at some point, but I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. I realize that, but when
the
you
Gray
see
Man
this,
is that guy with the hat, right?
yeah, and it's one of those things like you see him and you're terrified. You don't know why, you just are. And it's just this low res polygon of like a guy with a hat and a trench coat, and he's walking down this dark alley
I'm terrified
at
just
you.
thinking about it.
No, that's exactly it. And I don't know, it's like I discovered this game a few years ago, and I literally for like a week, like I was so entranced by it, like just it was just so.
Import this game.
Yeah, I've actually looked into it, and it costs like $300.
Oh God, I don't want to import this game at all.
I know.
Is it on the PlayStation Store?
Yes and no. It's on the Japanese PlayStation Store, and there is a really long process by which you can go about.
Yeah, I know. It's a pain in the ass, though.
I know, and I've legitimately considering doing it, and maybe it's something I will do at some point, because, it's one that I don't want to have to like open up my emulator, and I would just like to play it on my PS3 now and then. I think would be fun.
Yeah.
But there are a whole lot of weird...
Or PSP.
Yeah, even that would be cool. But there are like a whole lot of weird Japanese games on the PlayStation Store. I don't know why this one hasn't been brought over when it is already on the Japanese. Like, I think this is one there'd be a lot of people like me and you that would just kind of be weirdly interested in and buy it. So I don't know why they don't put it up. But
yeah, they put like that PS3 game, was it Nobi Nobi Boy? Or something like that? Oh, it's not really a game, it's just like a fucking weird shit's going on. So they put that on there, why can't they do this?
Right. There's one I saw that I think I'm gonna have to play. I'm gonna have to buy it at some point. It was like a 2D shmup, but like all the enemies were like half naked dudes. Like, it was the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, actually.
Yeah.
No, it's a whole long series. The name escapes me right now, but it's a really huge series of shmups.
Yeah.
And it's got a huge following behind it, too, and they're really good games.
Yeah.
But it's just all these, like, muscle-bound naked dudes floating around shooting each other.
I know. God, just Japan.
I need
God
to
bless
find
them.
the name of that, but like I said, the name escapes me now, but I was looking into PlayStation shmups recently, like the best ones, and one of those was on there.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I think that's something at some point we're going to have to do a video series on. Yeah, we'll have to look them up. The name is, I can't recall it at the moment. But anyways, yeah, LSD Dream Simulator. This to me is just, it captures all the elements of the horror and fright. Like, it's just so weird, and you never know what's gonna happen next. And yeah, like I said, if you were like seriously fucked up on some drugs, like
like LSD.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Very, very clever. Well, apparently, this I think it stands. There's like a bunch of different things that apparently stands for, but apparently it was not inspired by the drug of the same name. I'm skeptical, but
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, but that's kind of the cool thing of this game too. It's like the whole design of this game is based on the creator. Like, he kept a journal of dreams he had, and like had like 10, 15 years worth of like weird, crazy dreams he had, and just like wanted to make a game about those. So this is like an interpretation of like some real dude's dreams he had, apparently not on LSD. But
that's fucked up.
Yeah,
that makes it a lot creepier, actually.
Yeah, and if you go online, there's a limited edition put out in Japan that came out with this like book that had illustrations that artists did interpreting his dreams and actual excerpts from the dream journal. Yeah, there's just a lot of weird things going on in this game that I think the whole metaphysical part of it really attributes to its creepiness as well.
Yeah, I think that and just its novelty of being kind of on its own makes it deserving of a spot on this list for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot more I have to say about that, and I believe that concludes our picks. Am I wrong? No? Yeah, that's all of them. That is all 10 of them. So, like last week, we will take a quick break then. We are going to compile our rankings together, 1 through 10, and we will be back right after the short break, revealing our top 10 list of most spookiest, scariest, and creepiest retro games ever released. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the first episode of the Tim and Andy Show on Retrovolve.com. We're doing another top 10 countdown this week. Obviously, you'd know that because you've been listening this whole time. That was probably a stupid thing to point out. But we are back with the results for the top 10 scariest, spookiest, and creepiest games ever released on a retro console. And we are going to just start at number 10 here at the top of the list. We actually had a 4-way tie at the bottom of the list. It kind of was a little bit of a clusterfuck as compared to last week, which all came out pretty smoothly. But I had a sort of system in place to take care of that. So at number 10, I gave this an 8. You gave it a 7. It was King's Quest 7 for the PC.
Which definitely deserves to be on the list for the fact that it's generally terrifying in that you don't know what's going to happen.
Right, and like you said, anything can kill you, and it's packaged in this. It's just like it
tricks you because it makes you feel like it's safe and sweet and cute.
Yeah,
and then boom, you're fucking dead.
Oh yeah, like this is like some fun little children's game. Like you can buy this and read a rabbit for your kid and have a blast. But no, all of a sudden they're getting fucking curb stomped by a statue.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's pretty much where I expect. I didn't want this one to go too high. I think there's a lot more better and creepier games on the list. So I think that's a good spot for it. And then at the number, this will be number 8 because it was a tie between two games. They both got the same votes. I guess for the first one, I'll introduce the first 8th place tie goes to Adventure for the Atari 2600. I gave it a 6. You gave it a 9. Again, kind of one that I want a little further down on the list. I kind of like where it's at. There's definitely better stuff ahead of it.
It's not explicitly scary.
Yeah, this is one of those that's like I interpret it as maybe not scary, like I said, kind of tense, but
yeah.
I don't know. So that's a good spot for it. But that was tied with Medieval for the PlayStation. I gave it a 9. You gave it a 6. So they ended up with the same exact votes each. So I just kind of left them there as a tie.
That's interesting too, because again, Medieval is not overtly scary. It has all the elements like skeletons and stuff of being scary, but it's not scary in and of itself. It's just a good game.
Yeah,
and it's got that creepy vibe.
Yep, exactly. So it's kind of interesting that those two ended up to tying. That's kind of fitting in a way. So number 7 would be Jurassic Park for the Sega Genesis. You gave it a 10. I gave it a 5. So that'll kind of land it somewhere right in the middle of the list. I think was a really...
It's a good spot for it.
Yeah, I rated it a little higher maybe than I would have, just because I think the game in and of itself is just so good. The platforming mechanics, and it just controls so well that I kind of put it up a little higher, kind of based solely on that.
I put it a little lower on the list just because I didn't think it was universally scary. It's just scary when you're a kid, but it is a really good game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quality Genesis title. Everyone should have it for their Genesis.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it can be found pretty cheap. I mean, it's a big movie franchise tie-in game. There were plenty of copies made, so you can easily get a physical copy that's fairly cheap.
I think I have 3 copies of it, actually.
There you go.
It's not hard to find at all.
Just go to Tim's house.
Yeah, just come over here.
Yeah. Anyways, number 6 then on the list was Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. I gave it a 10 because, like I'd mentioned, this franchise doesn't do anything for me. Not to take anything away from it, just personally, not something I'm into. You gave it a 3, so it kind of, those two balanced out kind of right in the middle of the list there.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 because as a kid, it really scared me. But, it's not really that scary of a game, but to me, it was really scary.
Mm-hmm.
And the tenseness was what really scared me, because you didn't know what was going to happen when you're that little, and it did have a lot of that really creepy vibe to it. Certainly.
Number 5 was another game for the NES, and that would be Metroid.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of cool that the Castlevania and Metroid games ended up right next to each other, too.
2 classic franchises on the NES.
Yeah, and many people kind of associate with each other, and the term Metroidvania has kind of become a genre in and of itself.
Where did you put that?
I put it at a 7. You put it at a 5.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, so we kind of had it near the same mid to late pick. So, but our top 4, I actually think we fucking nailed it. Like I think this is probably the best top 4 that we could have come up with for this, and leading the way. Well, sort of, I guess. But the next one on the list, number 4, Myst for the PC.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome, creepy game.
Yeah, I definitely this to me, it would have been an injustice had it not gone at least in the top half. So
yeah, I think so, because it not only because of its atmosphere, but also just because of what it did for games.
Yeah, exactly. It was so important, and it captures the emotions that we were kind of associating with this list so well. So and
it kind of kicked off a whole subgenre on PC of its own. I mean, after that, we saw games like, Phantasmagoria and Zork Nemesis and stuff like that.
Oh, God. Yeah, Phantasmagoria is one that it kind of crossed my mind. I just hadn't played a lot of.
Same here.
So that definitely was one that could have made it, because that game was so fucked up. And another one, I just bought this on GOG today, that if I had played it last week, probably would have gone on this list, because from what I hear about it, it's so insanely terrifying and graphic and weird. It's a PC game called Harvester. Have you ever heard of this one?
No, I haven't.
Okay, go look it up sometime. Maybe we'll discuss this on a future episode. There's plenty of videos.
It's on GOG though, so I can just look it up there.
Yeah, and it's I think it's like $2 right now. It's part of like their weekend Halloween sale. So I picked it up because it's one I've wanted to play, but it looks super, super fucked up. So I can't wait to play that. Anyways, yeah.
Oh wait, I know what that game is.
Yeah,
I know that game for sure.
Yeah, you're like, isn't it? You're like this. They did like digital capturing of like a person.
Yeah, but it's also kind of like a point and click walk around, figure stuff out game. But yeah, it's all digital capture. Yeah, I remember that game. That game was fucked up.
Right. And I've seen so many videos of it, and I'm just like, God, I want to play that. But now I finally have my chance, so I'm gonna get around to that at some point this week. And that's probably one I think, had we done this list a week from now, would probably have made it, just because it looks so incredibly just bizarre and fucked up. Yeah. So anyways, number 4, Myst. Moving on to number 3, LSD Dream Emulator for the PlayStation. I'm really, really happy to see it pretty high on the list there. It looks
I gotta play this. I definitely have to play this game now.
Yeah, you do. I mean, it's I've played it on emulation, and it's one that actually runs really, really well. With PlayStation, it's kind of a crapshoot for emulation. Some of them work well, some of them don't, barely at all.
I always emulate on my PSP just because it's native.
Yeah, that's true. That's
I've
probably
got
a better
really
way.
good system down of putting games on my PS games that they end up working really, except for like a handful that just don't work, but most of them work.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely recommend next time you get a chance putting, just even if it's just play it for like 20 minutes, just to really experience how truly unique and weird this game is. So
Definitely, I have to.
Yep, number 3, we had LSD Dream Emulator. Number 2, Resident Evil 4 for the Nintendo GameCube.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that didn't hit 1.
Yeah,
just because of how scary that game is and how typically scary that game is.
Yeah, this is one that had it been one, I would not have been disappointed. You put it as your number 1 pick. I had it at number 4. Nothing, I don't know. You could definitely make a case for this being the scariest game of all time, definitely, and it's one of mine. But
got a lot of piss your pants moments.
Right, and like I said, I'm more a fan of like the less is more approach. This is definitely not less is more.
No,
but it does what it does well.
Well, and also I was going to mention this earlier, and it slipped my mind. That I think Resident Evil 4 marks the beginning of QuickTime events.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that was the first game with those awesome, amazing QuickTime events that everyone loves.
Oh, for sure.
Either that or God of War, one of those two.
I think oh, goodness. My audio went all weird there for a second. God of War was the first one that made it, like, obnoxious.
Oh, okay, that could have been it. Because there's not too many of them in Resident Evil 4.
No,
it's just during cutscenes.
Yeah, and I think it's...
Which is where they should be. They should be in cutscenes.
Right, yeah, they don't offend me in this game. I don't know if you've ever played what's that game for Xbox One, like Rise, Son of Rome or whatever.
Yeah, I have played that.
Which is like all fucking QuickTime events. Like the first time I played that, I wanted to shoot myself in the head. I was like, this is what modern gaming has come to. You just QuickTime events.
And then there's Power Rangers for the Sega CD, which is literally nothing but QuickTime events.
That was kind of just a lot of Sega CD games in general.
Yeah, that's true.
That is a unique platform. That's one I don't know a whole lot about, haven't really played much of, but it's certainly unique, is all I'll say, I guess. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 for the GameCube was number 2, which of course means that at the number 1 spot for the Nintendo Entertainment System, the number 1 game, Werewolf: The Last Warrior.
Of course.
No.
Scariest game ever, because for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, we didn't even nominate it. It somehow just like put itself on this list. I can't explain it.
It just ended up there.
Yeah, I think like I mentioned to you that I think it just needs to work its way into like every list. Maybe the next top 10 we should do should be like all just top 10 wolf games, like games featuring wolves, inspired by wolves.
Top 10 Werewolf: The Last Warrior games. And the number 1 spot is Werewolf: The Last Warrior.
Yeah, go figure. I think that like you games with like wolf in the title, like Wolfenstein,
Airwolf.
Yeah, Operation Wolf.
That was a really good game.
Yeah. I think that could be a legit top 10 that we have to do at some point.
The wolf list.
The wolf list. The wolf pack.
The wolf pack. Check in next week. It just might be that.
Yeah, maybe we won't make it its own episode, but I think we will have to do a maybe more abbreviated top 10 on the wolf pack. Yeah, tune in next week to get the full wolf pack list. Anyways, no, for real, the number 1 on this list, the one you nominated at number 2, I gave it the benefit of the doubt of being the best, scariest, spookiest, and creepiest retro game ever, and that is the Japan exclusive Sweet Home for the NES.
Well deserving of the number 1 spot, I think.
Yeah, and I am, like I said, I didn't play much of this game, but I think when I go back and really put some time into it, it's only going to justify that even more. I think in the short time I had with it, it more than showed me what it was capable of and the sort of attitude the game had, and it impressed the hell out of me. It intrigued me so much, and I really can't wait to dive into this one.
It impressed you a lot, and then short period, play through the entire game, it's going to blow your mind.
Yeah, exactly. This is one I truly can't wait to really go explore this further, and just really conveying that sense of horror and just creepiness on the NES to me is just even so much more impressive. Like how they pulled it off. Yeah, it's amazing. I can't wait to play it further. So I will just run down the list one last time here. At 10, King's Quest 7, 9, Adventure, 8, Medieval, 7 was Jurassic Park. Well, actually, Medieval and Adventure were tied for number 8. Doesn't really matter, I guess. But
they were 8 and 9.
Yeah, whatever. They're both great. So, at number 6, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. At 5, Metroid for the NES. At number 4, Myst. At number 3, LSD Dream Emulator. And at number 2, Resident Evil 4. And the top spot, the top, most scariest, spookiest, and creepiest game ever made, Sweet Home for the NES. That was
awesome.
That was a great list. I had a lot of fun. I didn't know if we were going to be able to talk about these games as in depth as we did last week, but I don't know.
Sure enough.
Yeah, sure enough, we found a way to sit here and fucking talk about old games for 2 hours.
And also, we both found games that we hadn't heard of before.
Right.
Hopefully listeners have too.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what I said last week. I really want that more than anything, more than finding just a way to rank games, which people like. But what I want people to take away from this is just discovering new games. And like I said, a game I hadn't even heard of earlier in the week made my number one pick for this list. So that's kind of the coolest thing I take away from these.
I'm going to be spending a good part of the rest of the day playing LSD.
Yes. Playing LSD, not doing LSD.
No,
don't do drugs.
I'm too old for that shit now.
Right.
But if you're younger, no, don't do it.
Nah, well, you gotta experiment a little bit, I guess, now and then. It's up to you.
Also, the Naked Shooter Man game we were talking about earlier.
Oh, God.
Cho Aniki.
Cho Aniki, yes, that's right. Okay, so here's what we'll do. Let's both try to find a way to play Cho Aniki, and we'll have a discussion of that game and the top 10 Wolf games next week on the show.
Definitely.
That sounds like the best podcast that's could ever be produced.
I think so.
Yeah. We'll see how it turns out. I see great things in the future for that.
Naked Men and Wolves.
I think we already have the show title for next week, Naked Men and Wolves.
There you go.
God, we're just so on the ball with this. Anyways, of course, check out retrovolve.com this week. I don't quite know what we're going to have upcoming for this week. I'm sure I'll have some stuff. Tim will probably have some stuff. We'll get some shit up there for you to read.
I got a couple of ramblings in the works.
Nice. I'm excited to read those, as should everybody out there. But for now, there's plenty of stuff that you maybe haven't read yet. And we've got a pretty deep base of articles over there. And, of course, on our parent site, geekparty.com, plenty of good stuff there from Tim and a whole slew of other great writers that we have on staff for us. So go check that out. Check out last week's show as well if you haven't heard it, our top 10 NES games countdown. Check out some other video reviews we have up on our YouTube page. And, of course, return next week for Naked Men and Wolves. That's all for this week's show, and as always, stay classic.